You are listening to KiCKFLiP Radio.
Welcome to the debate. Imagine you log into a virtual world and you buy this beautifully detailed photorealistic apple to put in your digital home.
Right, a totally normal thing to do.
Exactly, and it looks absolutely perfect. I mean, the lighting is pristine, the texture is flawless. But the second you place it on a table, the entire server basically grinds to a halt.
Yeah, your frame rate just drops to 0 and, your avatar completely freezes in place.
Right, because that apple, which looks completely normal on the surface, is secretly overloaded with like hidden microscopic geometry. It is essentially crashing the reality around it.
Which is a nightmare.
It is. And today we're looking at why that apple and the artificial intelligence that generated it is sort of, tearing the creator economy of Second Life apart. We are exploring a really profound cultural and technological tension that is dividing this virtual world right now.
Yeah, the central question we really need to untangle today is this. Is Second Life fundamentally a digital artisan economy that has to protect technical mastery and professional craftsmanship, or is it more of a collaborative social playground that should prioritize accessible world building and community participation?
Right. And I'm approaching this from the vantage point of the established Second Life creators. So the mesh artists, the riggers, the texture designers, and, the marketplace merchants. Because to these digital artisans, AI isn't just some fun new toy. It is a destabilizing force threatening their craftsmanship, their economic survival, and honestly, their artistic identity.
And I'll be looking at this through the lens of the role players, the community builders, estate owners, and just casual residents. From this perspective, AI is it's a much-needed democratizing tool. It lowers massive historical barriers to entry and enhances the core function of the platform, which, is social storytelling and collaborative imagination.
So to truly understand the friction here, I think we have to look at what traditional creation in a virtual world actually entails. It's not just sketching a picture and hitting upload.
No, definitely not.
It requires years of disciplined mastery in some incredibly complex software pipelines. Like, we are talking about mastering 3D modeling in programs like Blender or texturing in Substance Painter.
Which, by the way, for anyone who hasn't opened Blender, it looks like the control panel of a commercial airliner. It is incredibly intimidating.
Oh, it really is. It's terrifying at first. And a professional creator has to understand things like UV mapping. For those unfamiliar, think of UV mapping like taking a cardboard box and perfectly unfolding it so it lays completely flat on the ground.
Right, just so you can paint on it.
Exactly. You do that just so you can paint a 2D image on it, and then you have to fold it back up into a 3D shape without warping the image. It is agonizingly precise work. And then they also have to do weight painting, which is this painstaking process of telling the game engine exactly how a digital jacket should bend when an avatar raises its arm or, sits down.
Right, and if you get that math wrong, the jacket simply clips right through the avatar's body, ruining the illusion entirely.
Exactly. But perhaps most importantly, they have to optimize the topology. And that's the invisible wireframe structure of the object. So a master human creator might use, say, 500 polygons to shape an apple. Then they use a normal map, which is essentially this brilliant trick of the light. It's a 2D image wrapped around the apple that tells the game engine how to bounce light to create the illusion of deep 3D texture, which saves massive amounts of server power.
That's the craftsmanship part.
Yes. And generative AI completely bypasses all of this. It compresses years of artistic labor and technical education into like a 5-second text prompt. It devalues the learned skill of the artisan and pushes this really sophisticated virtual economy toward a race to the bottom in both pricing and structural quality.
Okay, look, I hear the frustration there, especially regarding the devaluation of hard-earned skill. That is real. But I think we have to ask what the primary purpose of Second Life actually is.
Well, what do you mean?
Because for the vast majority of users logging in, the enduring appeal has never been about technical purity. The magic comes from relationships, from collaborative storytelling, from exploring identity. And historically, the tools to build the environments for those stories have been locked behind massive gatekeeping.
Financial gatekeeping, you mean?
Both financial and technical, honestly. If you want to build a deeply immersive historical roleplay environment, say, like a 1920s speakeasy or a sprawling sci-fi colony on Mars. Commissioning custom, optimized assets from a professional can cost thousands of real-world dollars.
Right, because you are rightfully paying for their time and their expertise.
Absolutely. And they deserve to be paid. Let me be clear on that. But let's look at the reality of who is actually building these communities. Imagine a small, niche educational simulation, or maybe a role-play group with, 20 members.
Okay.
They are operating on a shoestring budget. They're relying on group donations just to pay the monthly server tier to keep their virtual land online. They cannot afford to commission a professional mesh artist for a custom laboratory. They just can't.
Yeah, I see where you're going with this.
So when they use AI to generate the textures and the background assets for that lab, they aren't like stealing a commission from an artist. That commission was literally never going to happen in the first place. For these groups, AI is the only way their project can exist at all. It is literally the democratization of imagination.
I mean, I actually agree that for a small, closed-off simulator operating on donations, AI feels like a lifesaver. If it stayed within that tiny community, creators probably wouldn't be sounding the alarm. But it rarely stays there, does it?
I suppose not, no.
The problem is that AI in Second Life operates in the shadow of a very painful history. It brings up the ethics of labor.
Ah, you're talking about the history of copybotting?
Yes, exactly. For anyone outside the creator community, copybotting was this massive crisis where people used illicit third-party software to essentially clone a creator's hard work. An artist would spend a month building a house, and someone would rip the file, copy it, and sell it on the marketplace for pennies.
It was devastating for a lot of people.
It was. We've dealt with texture ripping, unauthorized exports, rampant piracy, and now the fundamental mechanism of generative AI involves models trained on enormous data sets scraped from the internet, often without explicit creator permission.
Right. The training data issue.
Yeah. To a digital artisan whose rent depends on their virtual product sales, AI doesn't feel like neutral technological progress. It feels like the ultimate industrialized version of copybotting. It feels like the indirect theft of uncredited artistic labor.
That is a really heavy comparison. And look, I do understand the trauma of copybotting. That was a direct one-to-one theft of a specific asset from a specific store. But framing AI generation entirely as theft sort of ignores the shifting paradigm of creation itself.
How so?
The models are trained on vast amounts of data, but the output is uniquely generated by the user's prompt. We are empowering people who have brilliant ideas but just lack the physical dexterity, or maybe the free time to navigate complex software.
But here is where the local, personal solution becomes a global economic problem. Once that small role-play group generates those AI assets, they quickly realize they can list them on the Second Life marketplace to recoup their server costs. And suddenly, the marketplace is just flooded with highly polished spam.
I mean, spam is a pretty harsh word for user-generated content.
But mechanically, that's what it becomes. And it triggers a very real economic phenomenon. Have you heard of Gresham's law?
The economic principle that bad money drives out good?
Exactly. But here we apply it to virtual assets. Let's go back to our apple from the intro.
The server crashing apple.
Yes. A consumer browsing the marketplace sees two apples. One is 500 polygons carefully handcrafted by a professional with a perfect normal map to save server memory. It costs $3.
Okay.
The other is AI generated. It is visually identical on the surface, but underneath it's a bloated mess of 100,000 polygons, and it costs 10 cents. Now, the casual buyer cannot see the underlying code. They don't know about topology, so they buy the cheap one.
Right, because to them it looks exactly the same and it saves them a couple of bucks.
Precisely. Bad, cheap assets drive out good, expensive assets. The user buys the 10-cent AI apple, puts 50 of them in a virtual grocery store, and the region's server basically catches fire. The frame rate plummets, the experience is ruined for everyone in the room. So this so-called democratization is actively ruining the usability of the grid, while simultaneously shrinking the profit margins that legitimate creators need for their economic survival.
Okay, hold on. Let me push back on that. You're assuming the primary metric of success for a virtual asset is its mathematical optimization.
Well, shouldn't it be? If you want the world to run smoothly?
I would counter that with a foundational philosophy of social users, which is a perfectly optimized couch means absolutely nothing if there is no one sitting on it.
But they can't sit on it if the simulator is lagging so hard their avatar won't even move. I mean, right?
Fair point. The technical scaffolding obviously matters. I'm not denying that, but there is a middle ground here. The metric most residents actually care about is simply good enough for immersion.
Good enough for immersion.
Yes. If the apple looks like an apple, and my avatar can pick it up and hand it to a friend to further our storyline, the asset has fulfilled its primary purpose. You're placing the technical elegance of the creation process above the actual experience of living inside the world.
Well, I disagree that it's just about elegance. It's about function.
But to challenge the idea that high-fidelity, perfectly optimized assets are the sole purpose of the platform, they aren't. They are supportive tools. If Second Life becomes this pristine, mathematically perfect art gallery where nobody can actually afford to build anything, it dies just as surely as if it lags from bad topology.
But what happens to the culture of the platform if we accept good enough for immersion as the new standard? We sacrifice something profound, which is cultural identity and visual diversity.
Do you think we lose diversity with AI?
Absolutely. Handcrafted work carries intention. When a master texture artist paints rust on a virtual pipe, they are making hundreds of conscious micro-decisions. They think about where the water would drip over time, how the light hits that specific corner, the environmental story behind why that pipe is rusting. It carries the idiosyncratic personality of the human who made it.
And you feel AI loses that soul?
By definition, it has to. Generative AI relies entirely on algorithmic blending. It produces a statistical average of existing ideas. It literally cannot invent a new aesthetic. It just remixes what already exists. The result is repetitive, trend-chasing, highly generic visual styles.
I see. But I think we need to look very closely at the anxiety underlying that exact question. In Second Life, respected creators occupy the highest positions of cultural influence. Having a recognized brand gives you immense social status. AI disrupts that traditional hierarchy. Suddenly, a newer user with limited technical experience can produce a visually stunning environment.
Are you saying creators are just jealous?
Not jealous, but I challenge you to consider if some of this anti-AI sentiment is actually rooted in the discomfort of losing exclusivity and cultural authority.
I mean, that's entirely possible. Human beings are fiercely protective of their status. But I don't think you can separate the status from the labor. The status was earned because of the labor.
Absolutely. The mastery is totally worthy of respect. But let's look at the fear of homogenization. I don't believe a flat, generic world is the inevitable outcome here. Instead of flattening diversity, AI could serve as a gateway tool.
A gateway tool to what?
Well, think about how intimidating it is to start from zero in 3D modeling. AI allows a newcomer to participate immediately. They start with AI assistants to get their ideas out of their head and into the world. And as they get more invested in their vision, as they realize the AI can't quite get that rust strip exactly where they want it, they are naturally incentivized to learn those complex pipelines.
You think they'll actually take the time to learn?
Yes, they eventually learn texturing and topology to refine their unique voice. It doesn't replace the journey of mastery. It just changes the starting line.
I want to believe that. I really do. But history shows us that convenience rarely leads to deeper, harder learning when the convenient option is commercially viable.
That is a cynical view.
But it's realistic. If a new user can make $1,000 on the marketplace selling prompt-generated clothing, what incentive do they have to spend 3 years learning the agonizing intricacies of weight painting a skeleton? They won't. They will just generate more files.
But we have to view this in the broader context of technological evolution. Second Life has survived massive, supposedly grid-ending technological shifts before. Think about the historical context. Let's go all the way back to the transition from prim-only builds to sculpties.
Oh, wow, yeah. For anyone newer to the platform, explain what that felt like.
In the early days, everything was built with prims, basically these digital Lego bricks provided by the platform engine itself. You stretch them, you link them together. It was very geometric and rigid. Then the platform introduced sculptees, which allowed creators to mold shapes externally, almost like digital clay.
And people panicked.
The original Prim builders completely panicked. They literally said sculptees would ruin the aesthetic of the grid.
Right, and then we moved from sculptees to mesh, which was an even bigger earthquake.
A massive earthquake. Mesh completely upended the creator economy. People who only knew how to manipulate shapes inside the virtual world suddenly had to learn external 3D software or perish economically. And then more recently came PBR, physically based rendering, which entirely changed how light and textures interact to look more realistic.
That's true.
Established creators resisted every single one of these shifts, arguing they would ruin the platform. But the platform adapted, the culture evolved. AI is simply the next stage of that technological evolution. Resistance might be a natural reflex, but it is ultimately temporary.
I see the parallel. And look, I will concede that Second Life has always rewarded adaptation. And to be completely intellectually honest, AI does have legitimate benefits for those who know how to wield it responsibly. In fact, many professional, established artists are already successfully using AI.
Right. It doesn't have to be an all-or-nothing replacement.
Exactly. They use it as an assistant. They use it for concept generation, like rapidly brainstorming visual styles before they ever open their modeling software. They use it for procedural enhancement or rapid prototyping to test out the vibe of a scene before committing 100 hours of manual labor to it.
Which is incredibly smart.
It is. It can absolutely accelerate workflows and handle the rote, repetitive labor, allowing the artist to focus on higher-level creative direction. When it's treated as scaffolding for human creativity rather than a total substitute for it, it is undeniably powerful.
And I in turn have to concede the very legitimate fears of the creator community. I really do. As much as I champion accessibility and the good enough for immersion standard, the truth is that role players and community builders rely entirely on the foundation that professional creators have built. We need talented artists.
Thank you.
If the marketplace truly becomes so flooded with bloated, unoptimized AI files that regions become unstable, if the lag gets so severe that my friends and I can't even move our avatars to roleplay, the platform fails.
The virtual ecosystem simply collapses.
It does. Furthermore, if professional artists leave out of sheer economic frustration because they cannot compete with the sheer volume of AI-generated products, the overall quality and longevity of Second Life will plummet. We cannot have a vibrant social playground without the master builders keeping the fundamental architecture secure.
So we arrive at this fascinating intersection. The debate over AI generation in Second Life is clearly not just a technical argument about polygon counts, normal maps, or marketplace algorithms.
No, not at all.
It is a microcosm of a much larger philosophical divide. We are looking at the tension between protecting a marketplace of skilled craftsmanship, a space where labor, discipline, and expertise are economically and socially rewarded, versus fostering an accessible, collaborative sandbox where imagination isn't bottlenecked by the ability to master complex software.
Perfectly said. And while those two visions often clash, they aren't entirely incompatible. But they do force the community to prioritize fundamentally different values.
Right.
On one side, you have the preservation of standards, mastery, and economic fairness. On the other side, the championing of accessibility, imagination, and community empowerment. One protects the artisan, the other protects the participant.
And the future of Second Life will ultimately rely on how this community navigates that tension. It isn't a matter of whether AI will exist. I mean, it is already here, generating assets as we speak. It is a matter of how we negotiate new community standards.
Exactly. Like how will we handle transparency?
Yes. Will creators be required to disclose when an asset is heavily AI generated? How do we enforce optimization so the grid doesn't collapse under the weight of bloated files? And how do we maintain artistic respect and attribution in an era of algorithmic generation?
It will require a profound compromise from both sides. Creators will have to accept that the barrier to entry has permanently lowered, and social users will have to accept that supporting and properly compensating human artisans is crucial to the long-term health of the world they love.
We leave it to you to form your own conclusion on whether artificial intelligence ultimately threatens or expands the soul of user-generated virtual worlds. Will our digital landscape remain a testament to human mastery, or will it become a vast, instantaneous manifestation of our collective prompts?
Thanks for listening to KiCKFLiP Radio.